Welcome to Not So Polygamy Storytime. This is a series in which I look at the memoir of Brigham Young's 19th wife, Eliza Young, who is also the ancestor of my Uncle Ed. So one of the things that's interesting about wife number 19 for a historian is the fact that Eliza doesn't just focus on contemporary events or polygamy. She creates a long history of the saints. In her very first chapter, she focuses on the violence that the Latter-day Saints experienced in Ohio and Missouri. The arrival of the Latter-day Saints in that territory sparked concern among people who feared that the Latter-day Saints were going to introduce theocracy in which religious leaders ruled, block voting, abolition, and sexual immorality. On the part of the Latter-day Saints, there were several Latter-day Saint leaders who reacted to the violence being enacted against the Saints by ratcheting up tension. One of these people was Sidney Rigdon. In June 1838, he gave what has become known as the Salt Sermon, in which he tried to squash dissent by saying that anyone who dissented from church leadership was salt that has lost its flavor and deserved to be ground underfoot. Just 2 weeks later, he gave another sermon on the 4th of July, in which he claimed that any man who attacked the Latter-day Saints did so, quote, at the expense of their lives. The mob that comes to disturb us, we will follow until the last drop of their blood is spilled, or else they will have to exterminate us, end quote. Tensions between the two groups grew over the summer and then came to a head on Election Day. A man named William Penniston, who the Latter-day Saints believed had led a mob against them earlier, was the candidate. When Missourians tried to keep the Latter-day Saints from voting, Latter-day Saints burned the town of Gallatin, Missouri. You might expect Eliza to come down on the side of the non-Mormons in this particular case. She's writing an expose of the LDS Church. In her memoir, however, she says it's impossible for her to name who was the aggressor. And the 1838 Missouri War was the result of each side retaliating against the other, escalating the state. Children were murdered, as were innocent men. The tensions ended when Governor Lilburn Boggs issued an order expelling Latter-day Saints from the territory. 8,000 to 10,000 Latter-day Saints were forced to flee the territory in the middle of winter. Eliza describes women and children already ill from exposure, obliged to leave the state with the rest, end quote. Her own mother had 2 small children with her and only a single dress because, quote, her clothing had literally been torn in pieces. The sufferings of the saints in Missouri would become part of the narrative that Latter-day Saints told about themselves, that no matter what, they were the suffering people who had suffered at the hands of other Americans and been forced from their homes to die of exposure on the prairies.